Good morning, Council. I invite everyone to please take your seats so we can begin. Thank you.
Maybe just call for people to sit.
Good morning, Council. We are about to begin, so we invite everyone to please be seated. Okay, so we have quorum, council members both in person and online. So we can just start. Today we have 3 agenda items to go through. The agenda item 6, IFIs, then agenda item 7, formative evaluation of the GBFF, and agenda item 8, work program, after which we will go straight to review the the different joint summary of the co-chairs. So with that said, now I will pass it over to the co-chair. Floor is yours, co-chair.
Thank you, Naomi, and good morning, everyone. I'd like to now introduce agenda item 6, which is options to facilitate the achievement of the portfolio target related to the international financial institutions. I'd like to invite Zeno, co-chair of the auxiliary body for the GBFF, to introduce document GEF/GBFF.06/06, options to facilitate the achievement of the portfolio target related to IFIs. Over to you, Zeno. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Co-Chair, distinguished council members, dear colleagues. Very good morning to all of you. On behalf of the auxiliary body, I'm pleased to present to the GBFF Council the auxiliary body's findings and recommendations on options to facilitate the achievement of the GBFF portfolio target related to IFIs. This work undertaken in response to the Council request from June 2025 to the auxiliary body to provide technical advice and recommendations on this matter. As a kind reminder, this target responds to the guidance from CBD COP15, which called the GEF to engage IFIs on the operationalization of the GBFF with a view to leveraging additional resources. Over the past months, the auxiliary body has engaged in discussions with the support of the GEF Secretariat to identify measures to respond to the Council's request. Let me briefly highlight the main elements of the work that has been undertaken. As a starting point, the auxiliary body recognized that programming through IFIs has currently reached 3.4% of the GBFF resources, exceeding the 25% portfolio target. The auxiliary body notes that this required a dedicated selection round limited to submissions through IFIs. It also notes that progress toward the target may fluctuate over time given the country-driven and competitive nature of GBFF programming. To inform its recommendations, the auxiliary body conducted a survey targeting GEF operational focal points to gather country perspectives on working with IFIs as implementing agencies in the context of GBFF programming. Please allow me to thank all the 34 countries that responded for their valuable input. The findings highlight both perceived advantages and challenges. Countries recognize the ability of the IFIs to mobilize co-financing and support large-scale investment, as well as their strong technical and fiduciary capacities. As you can see at the current slide, at the same time, they point to some challenges, including complex procedures, the need for stronger alignment with country priorities, and constraints related to biodiversity expertise and in-country presence. Building on the survey findings and internal discussions, the auxiliary body has put forward 6 recommendations that you can see on the current slide. First, the auxiliary body recommends that the Secretariat continue monitoring and reporting on progress toward the IFI target. Second, the auxiliary body recommends IFI agencies strengthen coordination and early engagement with OFPs and relevant national authorities to improve alignment with country priorities and identify opportunities for GBFF programming. Third, the body also recommends that GEF IFI agencies strengthen biodiversity-related technical capacity by considering to recruit more staff with expertise in biodiversity. Fourth, it recommends the Secretariat to engage in dialogue with IFI agencies to better understand the constraints identified by countries and perspectives from IFIs, and to explore opportunities to strengthen IFI engagement in GBFF programming. Fifth, The recommendations also include consideration of targeted programming measures where necessary. And finally, the last point, the auxiliary body recommends organizing information sharing sessions for GEF OFPs on comparative advantages of programming through IFIs, including sharing of early lessons from countries that have accessed the GBFF through IFIs. Distinguished Council members, the auxiliary body hopes that these recommendations will help you to support continuing progress toward the IFI target in a manner that remains responsive to country needs and priorities. Thank you very much for your attention, and I stand ready to reply to all the questions, if any. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that presentation, Sino. And I'd like now to open the floor to any questions or comments. Over to you to manage any interventions, Naomi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Co-Chair. The floor is now open. I think that Sino was very clear in his presentation. Okay, Joko, and then I see Assad also in the back. Joko-san, floor is yours.
Thank you, Noemi. Japan welcomes the report and recommendations by the auxiliary body, which has clarified the strengths and challenges of IFIs in project formulation for the GBFF. We also comment that despite facing many challenges, selected projects from IFIs exceeded the portfolio level target. We expect that by continuing to enhance complementarity with the biodiversity area of the GEF Trust Fund and advancing coordination among local ministries, the engagement of IFIs will be further promoted from the perspectives of mobilizing private capital and financial leverage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joko-san. We will continue just behind you with Assad. Then I will give the floor to Lilian. Assad from CBD, floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I just wanted to see that in the survey whether you were able to find anything on how working through the IFIs has influenced their overall portfolio and investments, because they mainly operate, as you know, in a nature harmful global environment of the finance sectors. So there is 90% of the destructive finance basically goes through different type of financial institutions, and they have the huge potential to correct that trend. So I think working with FIIs has the benefits that you have shown, but is it influencing their overall investment behaviors or not?
Thank you very much, Assad. Now let's hear from Lilian, followed by Julia. Floor is yours, Lilian.
Muchas gracias, Noemí. Buenos días a todos. La circunscripción del Cono Sur agradece el análisis realizado y reconoce el aporte de las instituciones financieras internacionales pueden brindar en materia de movilización de recursos, gestión de proyectos de gran escala y desarrollo de instrumentos financieros innovadores. Esta circunscripción toma nota de la meta indicativa del 25% de programación a través de estas instituciones haya sido alcanzada y considera importante que dicho objetivo continúe siendo interpretado como una referencia de la cartera y no como un criterio que condicione las decisiones de programación o selección de agencias por países. Esta circunscripción reafirma que el fondo debe mantener su naturaleza impulsada por los países, preservando la apropiación nacional, la neutralidad en la selección de agencias, la competencia equitativa entre los socios implementadores y la flexibilidad de los países para elegir los mecanismos que mejor respondan a sus prioridades nacionales y sus necesidades. Finalmente, apoyamos los esfuerzos orientados a fortalecer la coordinación, la transparencia y el diálogo entre instituciones financieras internacionales y los países, siempre que ello contribuya a fortalecer la efectividad del fondo sin alterar su carácter de país dirigido. Muchísimas gracias.
Muchas gracias a ti, Lilian. I'll now give the floor to Julia, followed by Nicolas. Julia, floor is yours.
Thank you very much. First, I would like to thank the auxiliary body for preparing actually this document, which provides a detailed and sound basis for assessing the portfolio target related to IFIs. We're pleased to see the outcome of the survey conducted with the operational focal points, which gives a transparent overview also about the perceived advantages, opportunities, but also constraints and challenges. In this regard, we would like to particularly highlight the advantages mentioned of IFIs of co-financing, mobilization, and financial leverage, effective key leverage in times of global budget constraints. In addition, we support the recommendations on information sharing sessions and targeted programming measures, such as the dedicated selection rounds. On a general note, we would actually like to ask whether IFIs were proactively and directly also engaged within this overall process, in order not to hear only one side of the story, so to say, but also their perspective of perceived challenges, constraints, and broader feedback. Such engagement may also help identify the factor limiting participation by those IFIs that have not yet engaged with GBFF. And we're also looking forward to receiving regular updates on IFI-related targets and the measures and recommendations taken. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Julia. Now let's hear from Nicolas, followed by Regina. The floor is yours, Nicolas.
Thank you, Naomi. As Germany, we'd also like to thank the auxiliary body for this important work on reaching the IFI portfolio targets. And of course, it's very nice to see that we've already gone beyond the targets in the current portfolio. So we're clearly onto something, I hope. And these targeted selection rounds that we've seen now, I think this is a very good tool, not just for IFIs, but also for LDCs and SIDs, and of course IPLCs. And we appreciate the survey of the operational focal points. It's very helpful. We can see both what works and what doesn't really work with IFI engagement. It's clear that IFIs do have technical expertise. They can scale projects, and they also mobilize important co-financing. But we still have some issues with procedures, the in-country presence, and also the biodiversity expertise. And so it's very important, and we also call on IFI specifically to engage very closely with operational focal points when they design projects. Now, the suggestion to have more of a dialogue between the Secretariat and the IFIs, how to strengthen all of these issues, is very important, but we also think it's important that this doesn't just result in, general conversation and encouragement, but that we actually then see some agreed steps to take, for example, on staffing, capacity, and also regional presence. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Nicolas. And I give the floor to Regina, followed by Carolina. Regina, tienes la palabra.
Gracias, Noemi. Our constituency takes notes of the progress achieved regarding the 25% portfolio level target for collaboration with IFIs under the GBFF, as well as the efforts undertaken by the Secretariat and agencies to strengthen engagement in this area. We also appreciate the survey conducted with operational focal points, which reflects many of the practical considerations countries have encountered during implementation. At the same time, our constituency underlines that the operational expectations applied during the latest programming tranche led some countries to revisit and adjust strategies that had already been developed with agencies posing strong technical expertise, established country engagement, and long-standing collaboration on biodiversity priorities. In this regard, we underscore the importance of ensuring that any transition towards increased IFI participation takes place in a gradual, balanced, and predictable manner, while preserving flexibility for countries working with the agencies best aligned with their national circumstances and implementation needs. Greater advanced communication regarding operational adjustments and programming expectations would also facilitate national coordination and long-term planning processes. We also welcome the recognition in the document that the countries identify the need to strengthen biodiversity-related expertise within IFIs. In our view, continued efforts to build technical and environmental capacity within IFIs would be important to ensure that increased collaboration is accompanied by a strong understanding of ecological priorities, national environmental context, and the GBFF's objectives. Finally, our constituency reiterates the importance of maintaining the country-driven nature of the GBFF programming and preserving a balanced partnership landscape that benefits from the complementarity strengths of all implementing agencies. Thank you.
Muchas gracias a ti, Regina. Now let's hear from Carolina. And I don't see anyone else requesting the floor, so then we will go back to Sino and the Secretary. Oh, yes, the Pacific constituency. Okay, Carolina, floor is yours, followed by the ambassador.
Thank you, Noemi. So our constituency appreciates.
Thank you very much. I'm standing in for
Ambassador,
Tuvalu.
apologies. Carolina was first, and once that Carolina concludes, I will give the floor to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Carolina, floor is yours.
It's okay, thank you. So we appreciate the work of the auxiliary body in exploring options to facilitate the achievement of the portfolio target on IFIs. While we recognize the request to further engage with IFIs in the implementation of GBFF, we believe it is important to remain realistic regarding the challenges involved, which are listed in paragraphs 21 and 22 of the document. Experience to date suggests that engaging IFIs can entail higher transaction costs and more complex procedures compared to other implementing agencies, as well as having a lack of biodiversity expertise and limited flexibility to adapt to national circumstances. For this reason, we support a balanced approach, the recognition of both the importance of pursuing the target and the practical constraints that may affect its achievement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carolina. Now let's hear from Ambassador Paulele, representing the Pacific constituency. Ambassador, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and let me thank the presenter for the report. I just want to ask one question. You mentioned in your presentation that there are 6 IFIs involved, and 110 million is channeled through them. Given that most of these IFIs also have their own rules and procedures, is there a possibility of trying to harmonize or at least simplify their procedures? Because if you're dealing with 6, I'm not saying that all 6 will be involved in one country implementation. But I think in the context of small island developing states with capacity as one of our key challenge, I think trying to familiarize with various procedures and rules and regulation is something that will also impact on the outcome, or at least the desired outcome of programs and projects. So I just wonder whether there is some thinking towards trying to at least harmonize some of those or make them more flexible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I do not see any other flags, so I feel, Nicholas, I believe you already addressed the floor. Yes, thank you. So I do not see any other new flags, so with that I will hand it back to Sino and the Secretariat for responses.
Should I go ahead? Yeah. Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues, council members, for all the questions and feedback and comments that you have shared with us following my presentation. We highly appreciate all the feedback that you've provided. I wanted to address a couple of the direct questions that we've got from the floor. Regarding the question from CBD Secretariat, I wanted to point that 29 countries, which is almost 90% of the respondents that we've got the survey replies, reported that the benefits related to financial leverage and IFI ability to mobilize co-financing, which is natural, and that was reflected also in our presentation. And I myself, from one of the developing countries, also recognize that this is one of the key points that I guess CBD Corp also was trying to send to the GEF. And regarding the question on whether the IFI has been consulted in our body's work, This particular survey that we were discussing was targeted only to OFPs, and we got responses from OFPs. However, the auxiliary body recommendations calls for the further engagement between the Secretariat and developing of the dialogue with IFI's agencies to better understand the perspectives from their side, I mean IFIs, and also to explore opportunities to strengthen their engagement in GBFF programming. Therefore, we think that this would be potentially, with your guidance, something for the further development. But as of now, we can surely state that. And also the same would apply for the Mr. Ambassador's question on harmonizing the rules and procedures that different IFIs have in terms of the project designing and further implementation. I think as part of our job right now, we haven't really addressed that directly, but I can see where this question comes from, and I also share this perspective. And if there will be a need, we stand ready to work further with the Secretariat and the Council members to work on that further. Thank you very much.
I see no other requests from the floor. So back to you, Co-Chair.
Thank you very much, Naomi. Thank you, Council and others, and thank you, Sino, for your presentation and your responses to the question. Given there's no more requests for the floor, I'd like to now request Council to adopt the draft decision that is included in documents GEF/GBFF 06/06. I don't see any requests from the floor. The decision is so adopted. We'll now move on to Agenda Item 7, which is the formative evaluation of the Global Biodiversity Framework Fund and the management response. And I would like to now invite Gita to introduce document GEF/GBFF.06/E01, which is the second formative evaluation of the Global Biodiversity Framework Fund. Over to you, Gita. Thank you, Cheers.
Ready? Very good morning to everyone. Thank you, Co-Chair, distinguished Council members. The IEO is pleased to present the second formative evaluation of the GBFF. So that I explain a little bit this evaluative jargon of what formative means. Formative evaluation is conducted during implementation. There are no real results at this point. The idea is to provide timely insights to inform decisions while there's still time to adjust course. So that's why we call it a formative evaluation. And I want to say that just 1 week prior to having to finalize the evaluation, we looked at the 20 projects that were approved. So that's to give you an idea of how we have to keep up in real time. This work was led by our biodiversity program evaluation lead, Anupam, with Silke Heusser and Eki Ramadan. Since the Council received our first evaluation in June 2025, you will be pleased to know that the GEF has acted on all 3 recommendations. Coherence with the GEF Trust Fund and the results framework are now implemented, and resource mobilization is actively in progress, as we heard yesterday. Building on this previous evaluation, this current evaluation covers the period from the fund's launch in 2023 through selection round 5 in March 2026, assessing the fund's portfolio, design, processes, governance, and financing. To structure our analysis, we developed a theory of change for the GBFF. We applied a mixed methods combining desk reviews, portfolio analysis, a number of interviews. And with that, I'll hand over to Anupam to walk you through the main findings. Over to you.
Thank you, Geeta. Good morning, Chair, Co-Chair, distinguished Council members and participants. It's a pleasure to share our key findings. Overall, the GBFF demonstrates a strong early performance as a catalytic financing mechanism while revealing trade-offs and emerging areas for refinement as the portfolio matures. Let me highlight 4 observations that capture this performance. First, as you can see on the map, demand is substantial. Of 255 project requests received across 5 rounds, 32% have been selected, resulting in a portfolio of 82 projects. Second, the portfolio reaches 87 countries with a balanced regional distribution. Third, although GBFF sets no specific co-financing target, selected projects have leveraged almost 4 times the GBFF financing. And fourth, the portfolio level targets for LDCs, SIDS, IFIs, and IPLCs financing have all been met or exceeded. These signal real early momentum. These early results rest on 2 strengths. First, on positioning. The GBFF occupies a distinct and strategically relevant niche within the GEF family of funds, complementing rather than duplicating GEF 8 programming in biodiversity. With a stronger emphasis on governance reform, biodiversity finance, and IPLC's participation. For example, in Gabon, a GBFF project builds directly on an earlier GEF 7 investment, extending a conservation finance mechanism by adding human-wildlife conflict management. The operational innovations first introduced through the GBFF are already being incorporated into the GEF 9 programming directions. Second, the project design quality. The preparation progress strengthens design maturity between concept and approval. Results framework sharpen, causal pathways become more explicit, and co-financing arrangements more formalized. Remarkably, NBSAP alignment rises from 54% at PPG to 88% at CO endorsement, and projects substantively address an average of 8 km GBF targets compared to just 3 formally listed at PPG. That said, our analysis also highlights areas for improvement. These fall into 3 areas. At project level, there are gaps in how theories of change, baselines, and financing structure are articulated. There is also a gap between the KMGBF targets that projects address and those they formally identify at entry. In addition, inconsistencies in target tagging and the absence of indicators for some targets limit the reliability of portfolio-level monitoring. Collectively, these point to a broader question. How does the portfolio align with KMGBF? To explore this, let me direct your attention to the visualization on the screen. The left panel shows the full network of biodiversity targets the CBD has mapped. The right shows the GBFF portfolio. GBFF projects concentrate strongly on a subset of targets on reducing threats, covering spatial planning, restoration, conservation, and protected areas, and also on enabling conditions, covering resource mobilization and IPLC's rights. You can see this in the larger circle on the right panel. But these targets do not operate in isolation. The CBD maps 120 connections between them. The GBFF currently uses about 67%, shown in green color. The remaining 33%, the orange dotted lines, are underused, with the largest gap in access and benefit sharing. These connections represent significant unrealized potential. Incorporating these connections into project design will strengthen portfolio coherence across the family of funds and unlock significant biodiversity co-benefits. Turning to governance. Governance arrangements are designed to be inclusive and adaptive, with formal mechanisms for stakeholder participation, including observer engagement and advisory bodies. And here is the tension. The evaluation finds limited evidence of how consultation so far translates into influence in decision-making. The advisory and auxiliary body remain in early stages of operationalization, with mandates and coordination roles still being clarified. The accelerated operational model also creates a trade-off between speed and preparation. Competitive selection reduces upfront costs for unsuccessful proposals, but concentrates analytical, fiduciary, and consultation workloads on selected projects, particularly in countries with limited technical capacity. Also, sovereign lending cycles do not always align with GBFF timelines, and staff review at CO endorsement is little late. Stakeholders have similarly noted that the timing of document circulation can leave limited time for thorough review. Now to who participates and how. Whole of society participation is embedded in GBFF policies and widely reflected in project design. The portfolio's track record on IPLC's inclusion is particularly strong. Gender and safeguards are systematically embedded. This includes comprehensive gender analysis, budgeted gender action plans, sex disaggregated indicators, environmental and social risk mitigation, and local grievance mechanisms. Free and prior informed consent references rise from 25% at PPG to 55% at CO endorsement. That's a meaningful shift across the project cycle. Depth of engagement, however, varies. Formal inclusion does not always translate into decision-making authority or control over resources. And youth participation in particular remains less consistently integrated, reflecting the absence of dedicated guidance and monitoring indicators. Turning to financing. The financing model is operationally credible and reflects strong donor confidence, but faces emerging challenges. As discussed yesterday, the contributor base is highly concentrated and nearly all available resources are already committed. Building on this Council's recent decisions, and as discussed yesterday, several initiatives are already in motion. The advisory group of non-sovereign participants, the ad hoc group on predictability in financing, and the resource mobilization strategy approved by Council yesterday. These findings lead us to 4 recommendations. Let me take them in turn. Our first recommendation is to enhance coordination across the GEF family of funds to reinforce complementarity. Our second recommendation is to strengthen feedback and technical review in the competitive programming model. And the third recommendation is to strengthen implementation of the enhanced results framework to support monitoring and learning. And the fourth and the last recommendation is to enhance reporting on whole of society participation and governance outcomes. Co-Chair, that concludes our presentation of the GBFF findings and recommendations. We look forward to your discussion. Over to you, Geeta.
Thank you very much for that presentation. I'll now hand over to Ben to introduce document GEF GBFF 06/07, the management response to the second formative evaluation of the GBF. Over to you, Ben. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. The GEF Secretariat welcomes the second formative evaluation of the Global Biodiversity Framework Fund, document GEF/GBFF.6/E/E1 by the Independent Evaluation Office. The GEF Secretariat appreciates the evaluation's recognition of strong early performance with widespread portfolio alignment with national biodiversity strategies while meeting all portfolio level targets for the first time. The GEF Secretariat is also encouraged by the recognition that whole of society participation is embedded in GBFF policies with systematic incorporation of gender and IPLC considerations in project design. With regards to recommendation 1 on enhancing coordination across the GEF family of funds to reinforce complementarity, the GEF Secretariat agrees, stressing that complementarity between the GBFF and the GEF Trust Fund was built into the fund from the beginning. The Integrated Biodiversity Team already oversees both portfolios to reduce duplication and strengthen coherence. GEF 9 programming directions further reinforce the division of labour, whereby the Trust Fund supports integrated biodiversity approaches across focal areas, while the GBFF enables deeper work on specific issues, including support for IPLCs and mobilisation of private and philanthropic finance. The GEF 9 country engagement strategy also acts as a mechanism to deepen joint planning. On recommendation 2, on strengthening feedback and technical review in the competitive programming model, the Secretariat agrees with this recommendation, noting it already made substantial progress in this area. Non-selected proposals in the second programming tranche received tailored feedback through review sheets. Further proposal-specific feedback is also available on request. In addition, the Secretariat held multilingual webinars to share lessons from previous calls for proposals and plans to continue doing so. On the suggestion to integrate STAP review early in the process, current timing is set by the GBFF project cycle policy, so any earlier review would require a policy change by the Council. The Secretariat may bring this issue forward in a future policy discussion. Regarding recommendation 3 on strengthening implementation of the enhanced results framework to support monitoring and learning, the Secretariat agrees with this recommendation. The GBFF Council adopted a dedicated results framework in December 2025 and since then developed detailed guidelines in parallel with the GEF 9 results management framework to ensure coherence across funds. Following consultations in April 2026, final guidance was released and rollout will begin in July 2026. The Secretariat is also planning practical guidance, revised templates, portal-based review and webinars to improve consistency in the use of the new results framework ahead of the next call for proposals. And as for recommendation 4 on enhancing reporting on whole of society participation and governance outcomes, the Secretariat agrees with this recommendation. The GBFF's whole of society approach to both project cycle and governance has become one of its defining strengths, as illustrated by the IPLC portfolio level target, inclusive selection criteria, and expanded governance roles for observers and non-sovereign participants. New comprehensive guidelines on the IPLC targets and the results framework have further strengthened this comparative advantage, whilst the GBFF advisory group, auxiliary body and observers have actively contributed to the fund's mission and will continue to engage consistent with their respective mandates. Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair.
Thank you, Ben, for that management response. I would now like to open the floor for any questions and comments. Over to you, Naomi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Co-Chair. Floor is now open. Yoko-san, Thank you. Followed by Andrea and Kevin. Floor is yours, Yoko.
Thank you, Noemi. Japan welcomes the second formative evaluation of the GBFF and the subsequent management response. We have one request or reconfirmation, regarding the recommendations by the IEO, as the GBFF is a fund established at the request of the CBD. It is quite important that its progress and to be devoted jointly with the biodiversity focal area of the GEF Trust Fund to the upcoming CBD COP17. Furthermore, in the implementation of the GEF 9, we expect the GBFF to enhance complementarity with the GEF Trust Fund and to generate further synergy effects. Thank you.
Thank you, Yoko. And I give the floor to Kevin, followed by Andrea. Floor is yours, Kevin.
Thank you, Noemi. I can be brief. We'd also like to thank the IEO for this evaluation and today's presentation, and thank the Secretariat for its management response. We welcome and enjoyed reading the report and welcome the overall conclusion that GBFF has demonstrated strong early performance as a catalytic financing mechanism, and that it strategically complements rather than duplicates the GEF's biodiversity programming. The UK welcomes the recommendations and the actions being taken to address them, and in particular just wanted to mention recommendation 2 on strengthening feedback on project proposals, where we recognise and support existing efforts to strengthen feedback on the proposals and welcome the Secretariat's commitment to further develop support in this area. Many thanks.
Thank you very much, Kevin. And I give the floor to Andrea, followed by Lillian. Floor is yours, Andrea.
Thank you and good morning, and thank you to the IEO for this helpful second formative evaluation, and to the Secretariat for the management response, which we welcome. It's pleasing to see that operational innovations introduced through the GBFF, including the accelerated project cycle, the IFI targets and the IPLC financing allocations, are being reflected in GEF 9 programming directions as was intended. We're pleased to see the portfolio level targets are being achieved. We note the strong demand for GBFF funds, but for smaller projects and with the lower co-financing ratios, as we discussed yesterday. Like the UK, we are interested in why the proposal quality is not higher and what additional assistance could be provided to improve this, perhaps beyond the webinars and the other actions you advised about. We acknowledge the speed with which the fund has been rolled out, but that only 3 projects are in implementation stage. We're concerned because it will be increasingly important to demonstrate a strong track record of implementation to attract new donors, as we've raised previously. We note the Pacific is not specified in the tabular breakdown of biodiversity projects by region. Normally, we refer to Asia Pacific in this situation, although we would very much welcome those regions being disaggregated, given how vast they are. Finally, we're interested to know why Action Areas 7, Invasive Alien Species, and Action Area 8, Biosafety, Biotechnology and ABS, have received minimal shares to date. Thank you so much.
Thank you to you, Andrea. Now I give the floor to Lillian. Yes, Lillian, followed by Megan. Floor is yours, Lillian.
Muchas gracias, Noemí. La circunscripción agradece el trabajo realizado por la Oficina Independiente de Evaluación y reconoce que el informe presenta una evaluación equilibrada y basada en la evidencia sobre los avances alcanzados en la fase inicial del fondo. Tomamos nota de la fuerte demanda que ha generado el mecanismo y refleja que en la selección de 82 proyectos entre 255 propuestas presentadas, lo que evidencia tanto el interés de los países en la relevancia estratégica de este fondo para apoyar la implementación del marco global de biodiversidad. Esta circunscripción valora los avances alcanzados en materia de programación de recursos y la movilización a través de las instituciones financieras internacionales. Asimismo, destacamos que América Latina y el Caribe concentra actualmente una proporción significativa de los recursos programados, reflejando la importancia de la región para el logro de los objetivos globales de biodiversidad. El Cono Sur coincide con la evaluación respecto a las necesidades de fortalecer los mecanismos de aprendizaje, retroalimentación y seguimiento de los resultados, particularmente en el marco del proceso competitivo del fondo, como ya lo hemos destacado anteriormente. Consideramos importante que los países reciban la información oportuna para mejorar la presentación de las propuestas y mejorar progresivamente en la calidad de las mismas, de forma a fortalecer las capacidades nacionales y el acceso al financiamiento. Asimismo, apoyamos los esfuerzos orientados a fortalecer la complementariedad entre el Fondo Global de Biodiversidad y el Fondo Fiduciario del GEF, promoviendo las sinergias y evitando duplicaciones en la programación de recursos. Finalmente, esta circunscripción considera fundamental que la evolución futura del fondo continúe preservando su carácter impulsado por los países, fortaleciendo la transparencia de los procesos de selección y por sobre todo la apropiación nacional y el acceso equitativo entre las regiones y la flexibilidad necesaria para responder a las prioridades nacionales y de los países receptores. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias a ti, querida Lilian. Now let's hear from Megan, and then we'll give... oh, that's Carolina. Okay. Thank you. Carolina, and then we will pause to hear from the Secretariat and the IAO before we continue with the list of speakers. So, Carolina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Naomi. Our constituency thanks the Independence Evaluation Office for this report of the GBFF and welcomes its recommendations to strengthen the fund's effectiveness. We attach particular importance to the recommendation on item 2 on transparency and predictability in programming and selection processes. The absence of systematic feedback on proposals that were not successful make it difficult for countries to understand selection outcomes and improve future submissions. We also underline the importance of ensuring greater consistency and coherence in the identification of KM-GBF targets addressed by projects. This would improve monitoring, learning, and reporting while providing a more accurate reflection on countries' contributions across full range of GBF objectives. Finally, we encourage the Secretariat to implement the recommendations from the evaluation, in particular those measures envisaged under Recommendation 2, including enhanced transparency and communications regarding proposal assessments and selection decision. We believe this will strengthen trust in the fund and enhancing country engagement. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolina. Now let's pause a bit. It's been already a rich conversation, so we will benefit to hear back from the Secretariat and the IEO. And then we will continue with Stefan, Rashid, Priyanka, John, Kelly, and Annette. So, Ben, back to you.
Thank you very much, Noemi. And I'd like to, first of all, since I was reading a text, I didn't get the opportunity to thank IEO and especially Anupam for this high-quality document, which is also extremely useful for us at the Secretariat to know which direction we're going in and what we need to work on further. And I see that this, a lot of these comments were picked up by the Council, so I think we're very much in agreement on many of these points. Just to respond as quickly as possible to the first range of comments that have been raised so far. Very much noting the importance that several Council members are attaching to complementarity with the GEF Trust Fund, transparency, country ownership. These have been heard loud and clear, not only in this evaluation but also the previous evaluation. In the readout, we highlighted the progress already achieved on these points, and we will carry on focusing on strengthening these areas. On the proposal quality, and I'd like to take this point raised by, I think it was Andrea, on the proposal quality, as well as the alignment with KM-GBF targets. It was raised, I think, by Carolina. I understand the IEO evaluation focused primarily on proposals at entry point, at the stage of PPG requests. Now, these are very short documents where there's about 5-6 pages of text. They're very concise, There isn't, the agencies and countries don't have the opportunity to be very comprehensive in these documents at initial point, which is the point at which the selection takes place. This is very much part and parcel of streamlining and of accelerating the project development cycle. What we do see is that these issues, which have correctly been highlighted by the IEO and independently, in fact, were also identified by the GEF Secretariat when we assessed multiple rounds. These issues are by and large addressed when the selected proposals come back in the form of CEO endorsement requests. So CEO endorsement requests, as you know, are the documents, for example, the ones that you looked at for the work program yesterday, much more complete documents, and at least we do like to think that these are much higher in quality, that the theory of change, the baseline are very much strengthened, and there is a dedicated space to explaining the alignment with KM-GBF targets with a narrative that is required for each and every target that the agency claims alignment with. Very good point on action areas 7 and 8, highlighted by Andrea. This is indeed a gap that we have also identified and we have struggled with because there are very few proposals that come to us focusing on action areas 7 and 8. I would say, I'd like to say probably a majority of the proposals focusing on action 7 and 8 have been selected, so a much greater percentage of those focusing on those action areas have been selected as a way of compensating for the small proportion of GBFF financing which is going to these action areas. This is well noted, and we will carry on highlighting our strong interest in receiving proposals on these two action areas in future webinars, information notes, and any outreach ahead of the next call for proposals. In terms of countries receiving opportune information and systematic feedback, on this last point, I am going to push back and argue that countries and agencies are receiving systematic feedback. This was highlighted in the IO, the first IO evaluation, and we took corrective action. So in the last two rounds, every single proposal has received systematic feedback in written form through the portal. And we do also offer every single agency and country the opportunity to follow up on a bilateral basis to receive further detailed feedback, especially on non-selected proposals. So this was, we recognize, an issue in the first three rounds, but we have taken action in the last two rounds. In terms of reaching out to countries in particular, so we have organized webinars in different languages to facilitate access to information, but we will not only carry on doing so, but we would like to take full advantage of the GEF 9 country engagement strategy to provide further detailed outreach to countries, especially ahead of the next call for proposals. I think I have addressed all the main points. Noemi, back to you.
Thank you very much. Ben, Gita, would you like to add something? The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Council, for the appreciation of the report. At the outset, I would like to thank the GEFSEC team for amazing engagement throughout this evaluation. So thank you for that and the support. To come to Japan, our report this time to the CBD did include both our GBFF findings as well as our biodiversity findings, and we will be presenting at COP17. There's a joint, I think, session even with the GEFSEC. So thank you for that. UK, thank you for taking on the recommendations. Andrea, I just want to recognize that yes, there's always room for improvement, but we have noted an improvement in proposal quality. The only danger is when decisions are made at this early stage, one has to caution against being over-ambitious in the objectives so that later there are no issues. And I think that's one thing to be cognizant of the overloading on objectives at the very early stage. Point noted on disaggregation between Asia and the Pacific, and we'll make sure that the data is disaggregated even in results going forward. That's it, and thank you for endorsing the recommendations and appreciating them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben and Kita. Now back to the list of speakers. On va continuer en français. On a deux interventions. On a Stéphane puis Rachid. Donc Stéphane, tu as la parole.
Merci beaucoup Noémie. Je ne sais pas pourquoi tu pensais que j'allais m'exprimer en français, mais effectivement. Alors, tout d'abord, nous voulons remercier le secrétariat, l'AIO pour ce rapport d'évaluation et le secrétariat pour les éléments de réponse. Ces exercices d'introspection sont, selon nous, extrêmement importants, en particulier pour une institution aussi jeune. Un autre élément d'amélioration continue que nous souhaitons souligner et qu'a rappelé hier, il me semble, le CEO, c'est les échanges d'expériences et l'apprentissage croisé entre le Main Trust Fund et le GBFF, dans un sens comme dans l'autre d'ailleurs. Les premières leçons que nous tirons de ce rapport, c'est tout d'abord la pertinence du modèle, puisque le GBFF a reçu des demandes extrêmement nombreuses. La deuxième leçon qu'on en tire, c'est bien sûr que le GBFF fonctionne et qu'il délivre, comme ça nous a été bien présenté hier avec le programme de travail et les résultats. L'autre chose qui avait été mentionnée hier par l'un des collègues, pardon, j'ai oublié de qui il s'agissait, c'est que le GBFF parvient à atteindre les cibles qui lui avaient été fixées lors du premier conseil de Brasilia. Et c'est vrai qu'à l'époque, on avait tous l'impression de demander l'impossible, mais on se rend compte qu'avec les innovations, le cycle de projet accéléré, les modalités de travail avec les IFIS dont on vient de discuter, les APLC, tout ça nous donne un fonds nouveau et complémentaire. Là où on souhaiterait que le secrétariat et le trustee poursuivre leurs efforts d'innovation, c'est sur le sujet dont on a discuté hier, qui est l'élargissement des sources de financement. Pour conclure, les recommandations dans l'ensemble nous semblent bien calibrées. Nous avons une pensée toute particulière pour la première recommandation sur la cohérence avec les autres fonds de la famille FEM. S'agissant du retour d'informations aux pays partenaires, ça nous semble également très important. Mais de ce point de vue, nous sommes encouragés par la réponse qu'a fournie le secrétariat. Voilà, merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup, Stéphane. Maintenant, je vais donner la parole à Rachid, followed by Priyanka. So, Rachid, à vous la parole.
Thank you, Noémie. Good morning, everybody. The North African constituency welcomes both the evaluation and the management response. We support the Secretariat's effort to strengthen complementarity between the GBFF and the GEF Trust Fund. However, such complementarity should be pursued in a manner that avoids duplication while preserving the distinct mandates and added value of the GBFF. We particularly welcome the emphasis on improving feedback to countries whose proposals are not selected. For many developing countries, especially those with limited technical capacity, constructive feedback and knowledge sharing are essential to ensuring fair access to future funding opportunities. We also support efforts to strengthen results, monitoring and learning. At the same time, reporting and monitoring requirements should remain proportionate to national capacities and should not create unnecessary burdens for recipient countries. Finally, we encourage the Secretariat to continue strengthening country support, transparency, and institutional learning as the fund expands. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rashid. Now let's hear from Priyanka, GBFF representative on women, followed by John. Priyanka, floor is yours.
Thank you, Naomi. First of all, we appreciate the inclusion of observers in the evaluation, interviews, and process, which was missing in the last IEO. We would like to thank the Secretariat for acknowledging this request, and we hope to see this continue as best practice. We also acknowledge the findings of the independent evaluation regarding observers' participation and inclusive governance within the GBFF. The evaluation confirms concerns consistently raised by observers regarding the limitation of actual participation faced in practice. While participation space formally exists, effective influence within decision-making GEF processes remains constrained by, for example, limited access to relevant documents and projects, insufficient transparency regarding how observers' inputs are presented to Council and/or incorporated into decisions. Regarding gender responsiveness, we note that the evaluation acknowledges that the implementation of gender representation and responsiveness still remains aspirational in practice. The evaluation addresses that meaningful outcomes for women should extend beyond beneficiary numbers. We strongly concur with this affirmation. Women's effective participation should be implemented and reported regarding our leadership roles, equitable access to financial resources, economic empowerment, participation in governance, and decision-making spaces. We ask the Council and the GEF to define the necessary amendments and mandate as appropriate to strengthen transparent, accountable, and participatory governance arrangements that ensure observers' contributions are substantively reflected within GBFF processes and outcomes. We thank Council members for their attention and support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Priyanka, now let's hear from John, followed by Kelly. Floor is yours, John.
Thank you, Naomi. And thank you to the Secretariat and the IEO for these documents. We welcome this evaluation and are happy to endorse it and its management response. We note that the GBFF already implements the recommendations from the evaluation, and we appreciate that the evaluation establishes that the GBFF shows strong early performance as a catalytic financing mechanism. From our side, it's important that the evaluation confirms that the GBFF aligns strongly with KM-GBF targets to support its implementation. Also, we hope to see that the current activities to establish enabling conditions for blended finance will soon result in actual mobilization of private capital. We also note the finding on the high concentration of the donor base and hope that the resource mobilization strategy will contribute to diversifying the funding base. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. I'll now give the floor to Kelly, followed by Annette. Floor is yours, Kelly.
Thank you, Noemi. Thank you to the IEO and the Secretariat for their work on these documents. Canada welcomes the second evaluation of the GBFF and the management response. I alluded to this in an intervention yesterday, but the fund has made remarkable strides in a very short amount of time. In under 4 years, the fund has been established and has programmed over $350 million in projects, already delivering on substantial outcomes and meeting or exceeding the targets we set out for it, as Stefan just pointed out. We are proud to have been the first and largest donor, but the IEO report recognizes that the contributor base remains highly concentrated. We urge those in a position to do so to contribute to the fund. The GBFF remains nascent and requires continued support to sustain and scale its impacts. It needs further capitalization from new sources to reach its full potential. We commend the efforts to integrate Indigenous peoples and local community participation, noting that their participation is embedded in governance and implementation arrangements rather than just limited to consultation. We strongly encourage Indigenous-designed initiatives and continue to advocate for greater involvement of Indigenous peoples-led executing entities. We look forward to the GEF implementing these recommendations and seeing continued progress in the GBFF.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Now the last flag that I see remaining, Annette, floor is yours. Oh, there is another one behind. Yes, Annette. Okay. So we have Annette, IPLC observers, and Assad. Annette, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. Germany also thanks the IEO and the GEF Secretariat for the second formative evaluation. It is very positive that most recommendations from the first review are already being implemented, and we clearly saw the very close report you are having, and that is demonstrated in the effectiveness of implementing your recommendations. It's good to see that the GBFF is now clearly positioned as a complementary part of the GEF family of funds, with stronger focus on governance, biodiversity finance, and IPLC participation. And I also duly noted the points that our observers made. I think they're very valid and should be taken up. I also have to say we all know that the GBFF is very interesting for us, basically as a vehicle to test innovations. That was process-wise to ease and accelerated access, to incorporate more participation from indigenous groups, local communities, youth, etc. But it's also for leveraging private sector engagement and increase IFI share. That actually was Germany's negotiation position when we started negotiation around the GBFF. So this is something that, coming back to the whole question discussed yesterday about resource mobilization. So what's the unique selling point of the GBFF to additional donors? There's a very, very small donor base. Germany has proudly contributed 90 million euros. So what's the elevator pitch to a potential new donor coming on board, asking, what does the GBFF give me in addition to the GEF? Maybe the Secretariat can answer that. But it's also something addressed to colleagues here around the table that have asked for the GBFF to be established, and B, are asking for more funds to be established. I think that's the question we need to answer. What's the elevator pitch? Why should we finance something? And also, as a reminder, Germany just is prepared to announce a huge pledge to the GEF. Why should we make any efforts to additionally pledge to the GBFF? And that's a very serious question. Why? And that's the question I'm getting asked from my parliament, and I'm getting asked from my finance ministry. So, yeah, as I said, this sharp profile and a clearly added value will be key to attract new contributors and to keep political support for the GBFF. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Annette. Now let's hear from the GBFF observers, IPLCs, and then we have Assad from the CBD. So, floor is yours, IPLC.
Thank you, Chair, for the floor. I speak on behalf of the International Indigenous Forum on Biodiversity. We acknowledge the efforts of the Independent Evaluation Office reaching out widely, including indigenous peoples, local communities, women and youth. We also appreciate the efforts made in developing the IPLC's guidelines, and we recommend emphasis that there is the IEO's need to include indigenous peoples' guidelines as part of the periodic review for accurate reporting to ensure the effective implementation of the GBFF aspirational target of supporting actions by indigenous peoples and local communities. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much to you, Ramson. Now let's hear from Assad, representing the CBD. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Number one, excellent presentation and excellent visualization. I think it was really great to see how different targets are being approached, and also appreciation for the strong early performance of GBFF and continued relevance. So we heard one thing very clearly, that so far the investments are tilted towards reducing threats. And that's where I think the Council may like to consider providing some guidance that the future GBFF focus could be aligned with those goals and targets which are underserved or where the performance has been very weak. So we are now, the CBD Secretariat is conducting a global review of the collective progress, which goes goal by goal, target by target, and we see that target 14, which is about mainstreaming of biodiversity in policies and plans, target 16, which is about sustainable consumption and production, target 18, which is looking at harmful subsidies, and target 19 on resource mobilization are the most challenged targets. And these are probably the targets where I think the GEF investment overall or family of funds and GBFF has been limited. So I don't know if it's possible. The Council may like to provide guidance that, okay, in future we will give priority or there is an additional incentive to focus on these areas. That might also respond to what Annette was asking. What is the unique selling point of Global Biodiversity Framework? We can make it a unique selling point that it basically looks at, number one, upstream transformations, because these are the 4 goals which are looking at upstream transformations, upstream policies which influence the whole of economy. And this is the partnership, or this is the fund which basically looks at underserved goal. If we are able to just shift the harmful incentives and bring enough financial resources, we will starting to see an overall shift in the nature and biodiversity landscape, because it is the harmful incentives which have made it cheaper to harm biodiversity and make profit rather than investing in it and protecting it. And we see that there are billions of dollars still being spent, and especially since the GBF was adopted, not only that the subsidies have gone up, but because of the higher subsidies, the profits from harmful nature activities have gone up, which then basically create a vicious cycle of bringing in more investments into them. So with this, I would like to thank the evaluation for bringing in these really important points. And my last request would be to look at, if we are making a request for, reporting more on IPLC's engagement, we may like to request that how the whole of government approach has been implemented in these projects. And that will also then link it with these underserved targets, because that's where the whole of government approach, especially those who are responsible for macroeconomic planning, development planning, etc., are involved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Asad. Let me just confirm that there is no flags around. Okay, I don't see any more. So I believe that concludes our list of speakers. Now let's hear back from Ben, and then I'll give the floor to Gita for final remarks. The floor is yours, Ben.
Thank you very much, Noemi, and this very useful and thought-provoking set of comments. If you allow me, I'm just going to focus on a few of them, just really acknowledging the comments coming in, both from council members, but also from observers, in particular Priyanka and Ramson. These are duly noted. I just want to acknowledge the comments and the validity of these comments. Maybe focus on just 2 points. Coming back to Annetta's comment, very valid question, especially at this particular point in time when resources have pretty much run out for GBFF. So we need to mobilize further resources. There's a range of elements I could highlight, but I would probably, if you're really just asking for an elevator pitch, and I imagine we're only going to the 3rd floor, so it's 15 seconds. I would like to encourage donors to view the GBFF as the equivalent of venture capital. The GBFF has been, if you look back at the GBFF, the lodestar has been innovation. It's been innovation in terms of IPLCs, innovation in terms of the project cycle, innovation in terms of the resource mobilization. There are probably other elements that don't come to mind right now, but what we're seeing is that these elements, which have been successful so far, resource mobilization may be a little behind because we've had to design this strategy, right? But many of these elements are also being expanded to the rest, to the family of funds. So you see that triggering that innovation, investing in that innovation, getting proof of concept from the GBFF at this small scale, because we have to recognize that the GBFF is at a smaller scale than the GEF Trust Fund, but testing the tires on these innovative aspects and demonstrating proof of concept is a good way of investing in innovation, in change. And we all know that change is critically required at this point in time, where the donor landscape, the ODA landscape, is undergoing radical change at the same time as biodiversity loss is increasing at a rapid pace. So that's probably going to be the real pitch. If you would like further details, further arguments to bring back to capital, the Resource Mobilization Strategy Annex 4 includes all the elements of the GBFF value proposition. So if you want a longer elevator pitch, if we're going to the 25th floor, Annex 4 is the right place to go and look in the Resource Mobilization Strategy. And just to bounce off Assad's comments, the targets you highlighted correspond to GBFF action areas 4, 5, and 6. And I think in the progress report, we do regularly report on the allocation of financing by action areas. These 3 action areas aren't the ones that have received least financing, but it's true, it is a relative gap. It is an area that we need to work more on, and I would like to link that to the issue of working more with international financial institutions, the need to work more on blended finance. Where blended finance is most useful is going to be in these 3 action areas. So this is one of the areas, one of the general areas that we've identified to focus more on, not at the expense of others, but really to hone in more on and to encourage more proposals on. So thank you very much for that comment.
Thank you very much, Ben. I'll now give the floor to Gita for final remarks.
Thank you all for the support of the evaluation, and I'm glad you found it useful at this stage. And thanks for giving us the topic for our next report. We will be looking at the, I think, maybe competitive advantage of the GBFF and the role of the private sector. I think that would be an important topic for us to cover. IPLC's new guidelines, we will make sure that they're reflected going forward, and we'll also look at the whole of government approaches. So in some sense, this will be a good segue into our next discussion on what we will cover for the next evaluation of the GBFF. Thank you very much.
I see no further requests. Co-Chair, back to you.
Thank you, Naomi and Gita and Ben, and thank you for all those questions. Given there's no further requests from the floor, I'd like to now invite Council to adopt the draft decision that is included in document GBFF.06/07 for approval. I don't see any requests from the floor. The decision is so adopted. We'll now move on to agenda item 8, which is the work program and budget for the Independent Evaluation Office. I now invite Gita to introduce document GEF/GBFF 06E/02, the forward year 27 work program and budget for the Independent Evaluation Office. Over to you, Gita.
Thank you, and we just reflected on what would be in our work program. It's not in the presentation, but we have an idea. I'm going to request Fabrizio, our deputy, to present the budget for next year.
Thank you and good morning, distinguished delegates. So I'm pleased to present the fiscal year 2027 work program and budget of the Independent Evaluation Office under the GBFF. So the proposed work program, next slides. I will. Okay. Sorry, thank you. The proposed work program focuses on generating early evaluation evidence on the implementation and strategic positioning of a GBFF. It includes the preparation of the annual evaluation report for GBFF with special attention to the following items: the implementation of the previous IEO recommendations, the strategic coherence and the value added of GBFF, the quality at entry and results architecture, the implementation performance and the emerging results, and inclusion aspects. And I note also that the comment made before by some of the delegates, and so these are acknowledged as a part of the work program for next year. Given the early stage of the portfolio, the focus will be on implementation progress and strategic alignment and the foundation for future results and learning. The GBFF evaluation findings will also be presented to the COP. In addition, of course, it will go to the Council, but they will also be presented to the COP and to other international fora, of which our office is a member. The budget. So the proposed fiscal year 2027 budget of the IEO under GBFF amounts to $561,000, and this amount includes the fixed cost, variable cost, as well as the World Bank hosting fees. This amount is within the envelope approved by the Council for a 3-year budget period, and fiscal year 2027 is the last year of this period. So, last slide is about the recommended Council decision. So, with the permission of the Chair, I will read it. The Council, having reviewed document fiscal year 2027 program and budget for Independent Evaluation Office of the GEF under GBFF, approves the annual budget of $561,000 for IEO to implement the work program for fiscal year 27. The budget is within the 3-year budget framework, which was previously approved. Thank you.
And I'd just like to add, thank you, Fabrizio. I'd like to add that this represents more than a 25% reduction from last year's budget, and well under the envelope that the Council had approved for 3 years. So I just want to highlight that. Thank you.
Thank you, Gita and Fabrizio. I'd now like to open the floor for any questions or comments in relation to this item. Over to you, Naomi.
Thank you, Co-Chair. The floor is now open. John? Thanks for breaking the ice. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Naomi, and I thought someone should speak on this point. So our constituency would like to thank the IEO for the FY27 work program and budget for the GBFF. We welcome the focus of the next evaluation, which seems quite complete. We wonder, however, whether any project implementation reports will be ready in time for this evaluation. We also note that the FY27 IEO budget request for the GBFF, even though it's reduced compared to last year, amounts to almost double the FY27 IEO budget for the LDCF and SCCF. So we would appreciate your explanation of why this is. We would also appreciate a more detailed budget, actually indicating, for example, the number of staff and consultants working on the evaluation. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Lilian, floor is yours.
Gracias, Noemí. La circunscripción Conosur agradece a la Oficina Independiente de Evaluación por la presentación del programa de trabajo y presupuesto para el año fiscal 2027. Asimismo, reconocemos el papel fundamental que desempeña para fortalecer la transparencia, la rendición de cuentas y el aprendizaje institucional dentro del Fondo Global de Biodiversidad. Valoramos positivamente la evaluación del programa de evaluación hacia un mayor énfasis en los resultados de implementación, generando evidencia útil para mejorar la efectividad del fondo, y consideramos particularmente importante que las futuras evaluaciones continúen fortaleciendo el aprendizaje institucional y la mejora continua, prestando atención no solo al cumplimiento de los procedimientos, sino también a los resultados de biodiversidad, sostenibilidad financiera y por sobre todo el beneficio a las comunidades. Asimismo, apoyamos el análisis previsto sobre la gobernanza, apropiación nacional, movilización de recursos y desempeño de las agencias. No obstante, consideramos importante que las evaluaciones continúen examinando los desafíos que enfrentan nuestros países para acceder al financiamiento, incluyendo los aspectos relacionados a la complejidad operativa, los tiempos de aprobación, las capacidades institucionales y la participación efectiva en los procesos competitivos del fondo. Igualmente, consideramos relevante evaluar de manera objetiva si los mecanismos actuales están promoviendo una participación equilibrada entre las regiones, los países receptores y así como analizar una contribución efectiva a los distintos instrumentos y socios financieros a los objetivos del marco global de biodiversidad. Finalmente, tomamos nota del presupuesto propuesto y reafirmamos nuestro apoyo a una función de evaluación independiente, técnicamente sólida y orientada a fortalecer la efectividad, la eficiencia e impacto del fondo, alentando al mismo tiempo a la búsqueda continua de eficiencias operativas y un uso estratégico de los recursos disponibles. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias a ti, Lilian. I don't see any other flag as far as I can see. Okay, so back to you, Gita and Fabrizio, for final remarks.
I need to respond to John's question from Norway on the comparison with the budget of LDCF and SCCF and GBFF, right? So we are, as the GEF family of funds expands and we do evaluation work for all the funds, we're also trying to improve our own accounting to see how much we're spending on each different evaluation. The GBFF was budgeted a little more because in the case of LDCF, SCCF, it was more incremental costs due to additional projects. There was not a radical infrastructure of evaluation to be put in place in terms of understanding the mechanics of the fund, etc., like in the case of GBFF. We've had to invest in understanding, doing a lot more interviews, setting up the evaluation framework, the theories of change, so a lot more front-end work. And as time goes along and it's more routine work, we will see efficiencies play out. And that's why we earlier had budgeted 750, but we're keeping pace with the approvals in the fund. And we recognize this year there wasn't as much as expected, and so we've scaled back the budget. So that accounts for the 25% reduction. And I assure you that if there's anything extra here, we will take it over to the next year. So it's more about us learning as we go what it will take to evaluate this fund. And it is linked to portfolio size. I wanted to highlight this one thing in the context of this because Ben mentioned about innovations, pilots, and I think contrary to most beliefs, I think it's very important to actually evaluate pilots and innovations as one goes along, because these are the ones that are ultimately scaled up, the good ones. And so investing in maybe real-time evaluations, even on the management side, in some of these projects to say what's working well, what's not working well, as opposed to waiting for the IEO to come in, would also be another way of handling this, to learn as you go. We'll do as much as we can as documents come out, whether it's implementation completion reports or midterm reviews, etc. We will draw on them. But I think it's really key to evaluate innovations, evaluate pilots, because that's where the best lessons lie prior to scale up. Yeah, I think I've answered. Thank you.
Thank you, Gita. I don't see any other requests from the floor. I'd like to now invite Council to adopt the draft decision that is included in document GEF/GBFF.06/E02 for endorsement, please. Thank you. The decision is so approved. We'll now move on to agenda item 9, other business. I note that there was no calls for any other business at the opening of the meeting. And I don't see any other calls, so we'll close that item. And I'll now hand over to Naomi in terms of housekeeping and next steps.
Thank you very much, Co-Chair. So I have just sent an email to Council with a joint summary of the co-chairs of the GBFF. You will receive it in a couple of minutes. You have already received yesterday the joint summary of the co-chair of the GEF Trust Fund and the LDCF, SCCF. So I do suggest that we give Council some 15 minutes to review the email that was just sent. Now it's 10:40. So let's hope to be here 5 minutes before 11 so we can review together the 3 joint summary of the co-chairs. You should already have that email in your inboxes. So with that said, we will reconvene back at 10:55 to review the 3 joint summary of the co-chairs. Thank you, and we'll see you again shortly. Okay, Council, we have reached 11, so we are ready to start with the joint summary of the co-chairs. So we invite everyone to please take your seats. Okay, Council, so we have a quorum, and it's already 11, so I suggest that we jump into the joint summary of the co-chairs. Chair?
Thank you, Noemi, and welcome back, Council. I'd like to start with the joint summary of the co-chairs for the GEF Trust Fund Council meeting. This was circulated, so hopefully you have that, and the Secretary will read these decisions.
Thank you, Claude. So as mentioned, the three joint summary of the co-chairs have already been circulated to Council. As we usually do, I won't read everything. I will just go paragraph by paragraph, and I will stop in every decision just to see if there is any Council reaction to that. So first we have the opening of the meeting, adoption of the agenda, relations with conventions and other international institutions, report of a chairperson of the staff. Okay. Then we have the first decision, decision 4, draft summary of negotiations of the 9th replenishment of the GEF Trust Fund. Decision 5, work program for the GEF Trust Fund. That goes from paragraph 9 all the way to paragraph 29. Then we have decision 6, GEF business plan and corporate budget for fiscal year 27. Okay. Then we have decision 7, strengthening the GEF partnership agency expansion procedure. We now have decision 8, updating the system for transparent allocation of resources, STAR for GEF 9. U.S., floor is yours.
Thank you, Secretary. For this decision, I just want to note that it should reflect that the United States, and I believe some other members as well, called for directing STAR resources to the poorest countries, or the importance of directing STAR resources to the poorest countries. So just like that to be reflected. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that good comment, James. So we suggest that we include that in the highlights, if that's okay? All right. Thank you. Thank you, James, and the countries who also raised this important issue. So then we have decision number 9, GEF 9 integrated programs, lead agency, terms of reference and selection process. We have decision number 10, relations with conventions and other international institutions. We have decision 11, fiscal year 27 work program and budget of the GEF Independent Evaluation Office. This decision was approved, but we received via email a footnote to this Council decision that will be included, reading as follows. The US did not join the consensus of the decision. Okay, so decision number 12, GEF Evaluation Policy 2026. Decision 13, Evaluation of GEF Sustainable Cities Program and Management Response. Decision number 14, Evaluation of GEF Support to Marginalized Groups and Management Response. We have decision 15, Lessons from the Evaluating GEF Support for Policy Coherence and Management Response. Decision 16, Draft Memorandum of Understanding on the BBNJ. We have decision 17, Report of the Selection and Review Committee. We have this, oh, yes, Nanette?
I just wanted to have some clarifications with regards to decision 16. I know that there was a small working group that was formed, and I just wanted to know if that's compromised with the work of the working group.
Yes, Nanette, thank you for that comment. The decision was brought back to Council after the working group convened overnight, and it was presented to Council the morning after, to which Council approved the decision as it is reflected in the joint summary of the co-chairs. Okay. Thank you, and thanks again to that working group for bringing us to this moment. Then we have decision 17, report of the SRC. Decision 18, report of the SRC on the selection of the GEF's CEO chairperson. We have decision 19, interim staff chairperson. We have decision 20, dates for the 72nd, 73rd, and 74th council meetings. Masayuki-san, yes, floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Naomi-san. So, on the 74th council meetings, we do not have any comment on the proposed dates. However, on the modality, we believe this should be considered in conjunction with the discussion on the FY28 administrative budget. If sufficient resources are not available, virtual format may be appropriate. But on the other hand, if the budget allows, we would encourage the consideration of the hybrid format as well. So today, we do not intend to reopen this discussion. But we would like Secretariat or the members to note that we may raise the possibility moving toward a hybrid format in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Masayuki-san. So if I may propose a suggestion, we can also include in the highlights of the Council that this decision has been adopted pending budget availability, if that's agreeable. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for this comment, and we will definitely consider that and keep Council posted on this. Then we have decision 21, co-chair for the 72nd Council meeting. And then closure of the meeting, and I see no request from the floor. Chair, back to you.
Thank you. So let me invite Council to approve the joint summary of the co-chairs for the GEF Trust Fund Council meeting. I see no objections. The joint summary of the co-chairs is adopted. Thank you. We'll now move on to the joint summary of the co-chairs of the LDCF SCCF Council meeting. Noemi?
Thank you, Chair. Again, we have the opening of the meeting, adoption of the agenda, paragraphs 1 to 3. Then we have the decision LDCF SCCF number 1, GEF programming strategy. Decision number 2, work program for the LDCF, SCCF. That goes up until paragraph 9. Then we have decision number 3, fiscal year 27, administrative budget and business plan for the LDCF, SCCF. decision number 4, management response to the LDCF, SCCF annual evaluation report 2026. Decision number 5, fiscal year 27, work program and budget for the IEO. And that leads us to the closure of the meeting. I see no council member requesting the floor. Chair, back to you.
Thank you very much, Noemi. So I would like to invite council to adopt the joint summary of the co-chairs for the LDCF SCCF council meeting. I see no objections. This is our joint summary of the co-chairs adopted. Finally, let's move on to the 6th. Sorry, I'm in a rush. Let's move on to the 6th GBFF council meeting, and the joint summary of the co-chairs was distributed. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at it, and Noemi will read it.
Thank you, Claude. So again, we have the opening of the meeting, adoption of the agenda, paragraph 1 to 5. Then we have decision number 1, work program of the GBFF. Then goes from paragraph 6 all the way to paragraph 9. Then we have decision number 2, fiscal year administrative budget and business plan for the GBFF. We have decision number 3, towards a resource mobilization strategy for the GBFF 2025-2030. We have decision number 4, progress report on the GBFF. Decision number 5, options to facilitate the achievement of the portfolio target related to IFIs. Decision number 6, management response to the formative evaluation of the GBFF. Lastly, we have decision number 7, which is fiscal year 27, work program and budget of the IEO. That leads us to the closure of the meeting, Chair, and I see no council members requesting the floor, so back to you.
Thank you very much, Noemi. With that, I would invite council to approve the joint summary of the co-chairs for the 6th GBFF council meeting. Adopted. You guys are faster than me. We're all in a rush to get out of here. Thank you very much. With that, we can close the formal aspect of the 3 council meetings. This has been a tremendous week, a very long week, but a very productive one. And I would like to thank all of you for your participation, effort, and sense of cooperation and consensus. I would just like to take a couple of minutes to thank several people. And after that, Noemi will give some other remarks in terms of aspects related to the logistics of where we go from here. First of all, I'd again like to thank our host country, Uzbekistan, with the advisor to the president, Mr. Aziz Abdukakimov, and his staff, who have been tremendous hosts and tremendous support along this week. Preparation of this meeting and the future assembly in the next couple of days have been a long time in the making, but we've seen the results of this in terms of smooth operation and the venues and everything else. So thank you to them. I'd also like to thank my staff, who you have not seen that much, but who have operated behind the scenes over the last 3-4 days, some of them in front of the scenes, like Noemi. And this has just been a tremendous effort. The fact that we have had no glitches or very few glitches is a remarkable achievement, and I would like to thank them for their hard work. Now, the next thank yous are kind of a mixed blessing, because we do have several council members and other members of this GEF partnership that are leaving us for greener pastures or for other endeavors. But I do want to acknowledge the contribution and support that these people have provided to the GEF over the years. First, I want to begin by offering my heartfelt thanks to Stéphane from France, who will be stepping down from the GEF Council after this meeting to take on new responsibilities within the French government. Stéphane came on board at the Brasilia meeting, the other international meeting that we had several years ago, and he was key to ensuring the final creation of the GBFF. Stefan has been a deeply valued friend and supporter of the GEF, both in council and beyond, and his commitment to biodiversity in particular and to the GEF leadership in this critical area has meant a great deal to all of us. Thank you, Stefan. I would also like to express my appreciation to Aliona from Moldova, who has steadfastly represented her constituency for many years. Thank you, Aliona, for championing their positions with such conviction and clarity. We wish you all the best, though we will see each other soon at the upcoming ECW you are kindly hosting in Moldova in September. Thank you. I don't know if she's online, but I also want to express my sincere gratitude to Gabriela from Switzerland, whose leadership on the GEF Council has been both courageous and deeply principled. Gabriela has spoken with conviction on behalf of her constituency, while also helping us to stay focused on what matters most, making the GEF more effective, more efficient, and true to its responsibility to the conventions we serve. As she steps down at the close of the SRC's work to appoint a new CEO, we do so with real appreciation for all she has given to this partnership. Thank you, Gabriela. And the list goes on. A heartfelt thank you also goes to our good friend Annette from Germany, who has been a critical pillar of the GEF Council, especially in the latest GEF replenishment negotiations, not only for opening Germany's doors to hosting one of the meetings, but for her central part in shaping the bond consensus that led us to the adoption of the GEF 9 package this week. Annette, your commitment and dedication has been instrumental in bringing the GEF to where it stands today. Thank you, and we will miss you. We're also especially grateful to Rosina, who for the many past years as chair of staff has been such an extraordinary source of scientific wisdom and inspiration for the GEF partnership. Rosina has brought scientific rigor, creativity, and vision to our work, always helping ensure that our decisions were grounded in the best science. And beyond that, many of us, if not all of us, will remember warmly the way she brought biodiversity to life through her unforgettable stories, reminding us that every species, no matter how unusual, has its own special place in the web of life. Thank you, Rosina. And thank God this is the last one, otherwise we'd empty the whole room. And finally, I want to offer my deepest thanks to our own colleague, Peter Lallis, for his many years of remarkable service and leadership. Over the years, Peter has brought wisdom, calm judgment, and an unwavering sense of commitment to every role he has held, from his work with the inspection panel at the World Bank to his service as the GEF advisor, conflict resolution commissioner, and also as general manager. He has given so much to this institution and to all of us who have had the privilege of working alongside him, and we are profoundly grateful for all he has done for the GEF. Thank you, Peter. With that, I will hand over to Noemi for some housekeeping and other. Pass over to our co-chair.
I'll be very, very brief. Just to echo Claude's final remarks and say thank you also to Peter, Rosina, Gabriela, Annette, Aliona, Stefan. That's a very long list of people who are leaving. I don't think you're all going to pastures, but I think you'll be building on the experience you've had in the GEF and hopefully remembering it in a very positive light. I wanted to say thank you for bestowing the honour of being able to continue on as the co-chair for another 7 months. That's also been a very long journey for me, and I appreciate the opportunity that brings. I also appreciate the collegiate discussions of council. It's really good to see. It's in the tradition of the GEF, but when you contrast it to other forums, the GEF really does stand out as being constructive, engaging, tackles the hard issues, but does it in a way that achieves really positive outcomes. And I think that's in recognition to all of you here in the room, what you contribute, and in recognition of what the GEF does bring and its purpose in addressing global environmental challenges. But thank you all, and till next time. And over to Naomi.
Thank you, Co-Chair. So thank you, Co-Chair, for these motivating words. The Chair just mentioned that it's been a long week. It's been 3 days and a half. That certainly felt like a week, but a very fruitful comment. So thank you. Thank you, Council. We made it. As always, your feedback, it's very constructive, and it certainly will guide the Secretariat in the upcoming months, so it's very appreciated. In housekeeping, we will project a QR code shortly where you can access news, stories, photos that have been taken throughout the event, so you can follow that one. We are breaking a bit earlier, it's 11:20, so I do invite you to take advantage of this venue. There are exhibits happening just behind the information desk with some nice stories around the GEF projects. We have agencies, conventions, the IEO, staff, they all have exhibits that are waiting for you, so I do invite that you take advantage of this opportunity. We also have side events happening at this very moment. And they're happening all throughout the venue. We have side events, we have learning stations here in the Diamond Room. The lunch will start at 12:30. Then at 1, we will conclude the beautiful painting that you have all been putting a little piece day by day. So at 1, the painting will be concluded, and we will also have children from around Uzbekistan who provided the beautiful paintings that you see outside. So they will be around and you can engage with them. It will be a nice moment to interact. Then tomorrow, we have the assembly. We start at 9 a.m. We will have enhanced security tomorrow, given a high-level participation from the host government. And I'm saying this so you can take your time to arrive to the venue before that time, 9, especially for those coming from outside of the city. I do invite you to come with sufficient time. With that said, thank you all. Enjoy. We still have some fun moments ahead of us with the GEF Assembly. We also have the CSO Forum happening at 2 p.m. as part of the Assembly here in the Diamond Room. So we'll see each other around. And thank you. Thank you for your time.